guys, this is a segment from the Slumpbuster Podcast. You can find the full episode on any of the various podcast platforms, or, of course, subscribe to us on YouTube for more of our content. Other than that, guys, sit down, bust a slump, and enjoy. Matthew Stafford is going to be in Los Angeles this coming year. You guys are based out west, correct?
West Coast to best coast.
West Coast to best coast. Well, he's going to be now in your backyard. He's been in the middle of the country for the longest time. Here's my position on Matthew Stafford. Well, I do think that he is an excellent arm talent. 11 years, 3 playoff appearances, 0-3. I think that that's telling. I know you can't completely hold everything against him, but I also don't think that you could just give him an absolute free pass for being the Lions quarterback for that entire time. That's my thought on him. Anyone want to jump in?
I've been pro Stafford a lot longer than Kenny has, just off the fact that he's one of a handful of quarterbacks to ever have put up 5,000 yards. In addition to that, he did it in Detroit, which we all know is one of the most historically worst franchises ever. So I give that man props for that. In terms of his impact with the Rams, I think it's really going to depend on what else they do in the offseason, right? Because when Stafford has really thrived, it's been with big targeted receivers. You know, Marvin Jones, Calvin Johnson. And right now, the closest thing the Rams have to that is Cooper Kupp. He's a big body, but he's more, shifty, kind of dirty work sort of player than the absolute, I'm going to moss you, deep threat kind of guy. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what the Rams do there. Now, the other part of it is they are giving up a lot of dead money to get rid of Goff. And with the cap going down, they're expected to be anywhere from like 25 to 35 million over the cap. So that means they're going to have to make some cuts. If you look at the roster, the O-line is probably the easiest place to make those cuts. But their O-line was also kind of been up and down the past few years. So, yeah, basically, it just can't all be on Stafford. You got to put things around him. But I'm excited to see him in the limelight and see kind of what he does out here in LA as a franchise QB.
Okay, Kenny, now, as Pete mentioned with the dead cap situation, the Rams actually do have their stars locked up. Ramsey, locked up. Aaron Donald, locked up. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. Both those guys are set coming into the year. Does that mean that the Rams are in a position where they have to win the title next year, or their window is just completely closed?
This is our best hope for right now.
He said R. Now he's a Rams fan again?
Oh, no. I'm using that for right
now. Just had to get clarification.
There's a term that I coined. It's called fan-hoeing. I had a fan-hoe phase after Khalil Mack was traded from the Raiders. You know what? I'm tired of this team constantly letting me down. It's like you're in a relationship and kind of toxic and you cheat, allegedly. So, yeah, I cheated on the Raiders with the Rams for a season. And that season they went to the Super Bowl and lost. And then I'm like, you know what? The Rams don't have what it takes to really, win my fandom over my loyalty. So I'm going to just go back to the Raiders. Yeah, fan-hoeing. Yeah. When it comes to the Rams, though, Stafford, let's be honest, is at the end of his career. At least, maybe he has, a good 2-3 years left at an above average level, just because of the injuries, the spinal injuries, all that. And yeah, he does have the arm talent, the moxie. He was humbled in Detroit. And yeah, early on I wasn't high on Stafford because he was arrogant, he was stubborn. He's like, I'm just going to depend on my arm talent. And it's like, dude, you're in Detroit. Aaron Rodgers can get away with leaning on his arm talent. He can't. Got to be more conservative with the ball. And I think Jim Caldwell saved his career, honestly. Jim Caldwell saved his career, and when you get Kenny Galladay, who's a big target, the Raiders also passed on him, but that's a whole other situation. And then you get Golden Tate. They had 3 good receivers in Detroit at one time. Any one of them could have went over 1,000. When Matthew Stafford just had to be a distributor of the ball, you could see he could do it, but he could also win you games that you had no business winning. So you put his experience, moxie, this stage of his career, everything he's done, and his philanthropic efforts in Los Angeles, he's a perfect fit. If you take it back to when Stafford first came out of Georgia, Goff first came out of Cal, Stafford was automatically a blue chip. He was much better than Goff ever could be from just start of their careers. And you look all the things that Stafford's done, where arguably he's the greatest quarterback in the Lions' history. And if you just looked at those numbers and didn't look at records, you could argue that those are Hall of Fame numbers, even though he doesn't have a ring yet. So if you put him in Los Angeles with that defense and his knowledge and his ability to be a gunslinger, but also know when to kind of draw back and not throw the game away, whereas Goff was just not willing to take risks, I like their odds, but only for like the next 2 to 3 years. Because their only first round pick that they've had like in the past 8 years is Aaron Donald. Like that's a problem.
Okay. Where I'm kind of coming from too is you mentioned Stafford coming out of Georgia versus Goff coming out of Cal. The problem with that is you're not getting a 20-year-old Matthew Stafford. You're getting the 34-year-old version that's been in Detroit for over 10 plus years. After a certain point, I have to wonder if that becomes your identity. If Stat Padford is forever your identity, because again, the 5,000-yard seasons, that's why he has that nickname, because we've seen a lot of seasons like that from him. We've also seen him have below 500 records, the majority of them. And as the quarterback, let's face it, he does have one of the biggest impacts on the team compared to other positions. We're not talking about just a Calvin Johnson wasting away on a bad Lions team. We're talking about a quarterback. I've seen quarterbacks go to situations, even Jimmy Garoppolo on the lower end, and I know his name came up in trade discussions. When it comes to him, he went to a 1-10 team, won 5 straight games, closed out the regular season a couple of years ago. A quarterback can change around a roster and a mentality, and I wonder what kind of mentality Stafford's going to have coming into the Rams organization. At that point, I'm hoping that more Sean McVay takes over than Stafford, because I feel he has to unlearn some bad habits that he may have learned in Detroit.
This was my question when the move all kind of happened is, if it does flop, who do you blame? Do you blame Les Snead for trading away all the draft picks? Do you blame McVay for not being the offensive genius we all think and hope and want him to be? Or is it on Stafford for ultimately being Matt Stafford, the guy who can't get you over the hump or can't win? That's something that I'll really be kind of looking forward as this next year unravels. But I think the other thing, too, that we maybe forget because he's the man of steel, Mr. Invincible, but Aaron Donald's 29 years old. He's going to be 30. Even if he has 1 or 2 top number 1 defense player years, we don't know, because if you look at the position, that position just falls off a cliff at some point. Just either weight, injuries from being big and banged up all the time, things like that. But also we haven't seen a player like Aaron Donald, so maybe he's the exception, not the rule.
He does do a great job of taking care of his body, and I do think that he may have an opportunity to have an extended prime compared to other people at that position. But you're right. How many more years can you play at that level of football, at that position? Because it's not quarterback. He's taking hits on every single play. He's going against the best offensive linemen on every single play. I know they'll do some stuff to move him around, but there has to be players that could take the edge off of him. And as their cap continues to go up, as they have less money to move around with, they're not going to be able to surround him with the best. And that is going to be a problem for him moving forward. That's what I'm saying. This year, with the Matthew Stafford deal signifies to me, this year's the Rams' Super Bowl window. If they don't win it, they're not going to have the opportunity to do it again. No team has won with a quarterback taking up over 13% of the cap since Steve Young was in the league. And that's what Matthew Stafford would become.
And when you look at that Rams defense, let's be honest, they pretty much built everything on the foundation of Aaron Donald. It's easier when you look at like the Chiefs defense or the Niners defense when they got to the Super Bowl. It wasn't based off one guy. It was based off concept pressure. That's why I think Aaron Donald's better off in a 4-3 defense, because he needs help. I mean, they got Terrell Lewis, good young player. Like, they have guys who are scheme versatile. And I think they'd be better off switching back to a 4-3, because you put the guy's a 3-4, he's a 3-4 defensive end. Like, as a 5 technique, or even if you're stunting guys, like, that's a lot on 3 down linemen. And then you're constantly trying to figure some amalgamation with your linebackers and schemes and blitzes and coverages. Like, no, you need another body down there to take the edge off of Aaron Donald.
That's not even to mention, too, that they just made the switch at defensive coordinator with Raheem Morris as well, considering Brandon Staley literally just got poached after 1 year.
Yep. Like, I think when I look at Khalil Mack and Aaron Donald, they're clearly going to be tied together. And if you look at the Bears and the Rams, they really just said, you know what, we're just going to rely on only this dude to make plays for us and not really put much else around him. And I think that's how you ruin a star. That's how they ruined Barry Sanders. That's how they ruined Calvin Johnson. When you say, okay, we're only going to rely on this person, we just put marginal or somewhat good talent around them, and then we'll figure it out everywhere else. Like, okay, Jalen Ramsey's a corner. He can only do so much. And elite corners don't necessarily win the Super Bowl. Elite defensive line play wins you the Super Bowl. Look what Chris Jones did for the Chiefs. But guess what? There's a guy next to Chris Jones, Frank Clark. They have an athletic linebacking core, an athletic safeties. the Rams really have to look and say, we can't put all the pressure on this one guy to do everything. Just think about it. The Rams' best bet to win the Super Bowl was when they had Gurley. Now you have Cam Akers. You got lucky, but it's like it's going to be more about the offense needs to do enough to bail that defense out. Because the defense has been holding firm most of this run with the Rams.
And I don't want to fully shit on the Rams because I think they also deserve credit for a lot of the late round talent that they have developed. Whether you're talking about, Joyner, Johnson, Corey Littleton, Greg Gaines, Morgan Fox. Like, they found a way to get guys who've been productive. But also, to Kenny's point, a lot of that also with Aaron Donald doing so much on the field that he just makes everybody else that much better.
Well, it's a tough division, the NFC West. That's another factor here. The Cardinals are getting better. The Niners were in the Super Bowl just last year. And the Seahawks, as long as they have Russell Wilson, will always have an opportunity.